Hey guys, it's Ainsley from Fairy Tale Vibes, and today I thought, what would be fun? If I talked about Ever After High lore while I did my makeup. So today we are going over how the Destinies work in Ever After High. I think I briefly covered this in my Ever After High retelling, but it wasn't really an in-depth covering of it. So I thought, why don't we just dedicate one video to this, because so many of you asked me, how do the Destinies work? And I get it, because it's confusing. The other thing about how the Destinies work is there's actually two parts to how the Destinies work. There's how Headmaster Grim, and when I say Headmaster Grim, I mean Milton Grimm. There's how Milton Grimm claims the Destinies work, and then there's how they actually work. Because, like, a lot of times in the Ever After High universe, in the books and the show, they'll tell us how the Destinies work. But oftentimes what they're telling us is what Headmaster Grimm has told them. What Headmaster Grimm claims the Destinies do. Which he's not necessarily accurate with that, as we can see by the fact that, the Storybook of Legends was stolen. He was trying to pass off a fake one as the real one. And, clearly if the Destinies were actually as important as he claimed they were, he would be a lot more, concerned, and there would have been, a lot more detrimental, effects if, they just didn't have the actual Storybook of Legends, if it is as vital as he claims it is. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. But before we get into that, I just wanted to let you guys know, I've been seeing a lot of love on my Ever After High lore videos. So how do you do the finger heart? I forget. Oh, like this? Thank you guys. So thank you guys for all the love you've been sharing with me on my Ever After High videos. And I just want to remind you guys, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe if you want to support, but definitely subscribe, because right now my goal is to reach 10K subscribers, and maybe once we hit 10K subscribers, we'll do something special. I don't know what it'll be. Leave suggestions down below. Another thing, a lot of you know, if you've been watching to the end of my videos, I've been talking about the startup I've been working on, which is the Dollcrafter Marketplace. Hey guys, so this is Ainsley from the future popping in because I thought I could explain the Dollcrafter Marketplace a bit better. Basically, it is going to be a marketplace designed to be the one-stop shop for buying materials for doll customs and also doll restyles. It is also going to be made for doll collectors by doll collectors. So think of an Etsy or eBay, but just for doll collectors, because a lot of other platforms often don't understand our terms. When you search up rerouting materials, they have no idea what you mean. But basically, we are going to be making a website directly tailored to our needs as doll collectors and what we want to purchase. I know I said it's mainly for restyling and customizing materials, but we also will be encouraging people to sell old, used, vintage dolls on our platform as well. So it will also be a good place to get those. But if you are at all interested in being a customer or a seller on the Dollcrafter Marketplace, in the description, there is a link to join our waitlist. I would highly encourage you to join our waitlist. The waitlist is basically how we estimate how many people are interested in using our platform. And again, we are currently developing the platform. So go join the waitlist to show your support if you're at all interested. It also helps support me. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of the video. Get your Ever After High lore. Let's get back into the video. So how does Headmaster Grimm claim the Destinies work? So the way that they claim the Destinies work is that basically once the character signs the Destiny, they still have some free will. And when I say free will, that's their choice to do whatever they're gonna do. And we know this because Red Riding Hood, she signed it. And she did follow her destiny, but she changed it slightly so that the big bad wolf didn't die. She saved him, and so that she could marry him. So the thing about the Destinies is they guide, once they sign the Storybook of Legends, they guide the character in a certain direction towards their destiny. So for example, once Raven signs, she's supposed to unlock her full powers, and that's because it's going to be guiding her to becoming the evil queen. Also, a lot of people forget one of the other reasons Raven was worried about signing the Storybook of Legends is because she thought it would change her. She thought and we know this didn't actually happen, but she thought, because of how Headmaster Grimm said the Destinies work, that once she signed, she'd be more inclined to go down the path of evil. So she was actually afraid that signing would make her more evil because it would give her that inclination. So basically what the Destinies do is, again, the characters, once they sign, they still have some sort of free will, they can make small choices, but overall it's supposed to guide them in direction, they're supposed to have a sort of change of disposition that will guide them towards their destiny, and they're supposed to maybe gain powers or abilities or strengthen their abilities in a direction that helps them fulfill their destiny. We also know that like by signing their destiny, they're sort of inscribed to take over like that position. So like for example, in Way to Wonderland, Courtly wants to sign Lizzie's page in the Storybook of Legends so that she can become the next Queen of Hearts, so she can take over that kingdom. So we do know there is a sort of power there, especially for like monarchs. Like if you want to become the next Snow White, because Snow White is a queen, you have to sign. Another thing that they don't really talk about in the show that they do in the book is that once somebody signs and then they graduate, so like Apple, she's still Apple, but once she graduates, because she signed, she would become the next Snow White. So when they sign, they're also kind of signing away their personal identity to become the character. So like Apple will become the next Snow White. I know it didn't like happen immediately when she signed, but like basically signing is supposed to make them like become that person. Now again, it doesn't literally make them transform into like Snow White. Like Apple's still herself. So like I don't even know if that's really a power of the Storybook of Legends to make them change their name. It's more so that when they graduate, they just take on that name. So I don't know if that's really a power. Some of the other things that they claim the Storybook of Legends has power over is just like life events that happen to people. So for example, Ashlyn's mom, they say this in the books, is supposed to die young so that Ashlyn can go live with her stepmother and stepsisters. Now again, we're going to talk about this when I get to how the Storybook of Legends actually works, but supposedly whenever Ashlyn's mom signed the Storybook of Legends, it gained some sort of power over her life that would be able to determine when she dies. I know, pretty dark, but yeah, basically how the Storybook of Legends is supposed to work is that it's just supposed to guide the characters to their destiny. You can also think of it as a sort of contract that makes them like head towards their destiny. They do still have like little bits of free will, but overall it just pushes them towards that destiny. And I also wonder, they never say this, but like if you signed and then didn't fulfill your destiny, like if there would be some sort of like problem, like if it would be a breach of contract. They never get into that, so I don't know. But that's like kind of how Headmaster Grim claims it works. He claims like it's basically like once they sign it, they're locked in. It's gonna push them in that direction. But now let's get into how it actually works, because I don't think it has as much power as Headmaster Grim claims it does. Okay, so here's the thing. Headmaster Grim acts like the Storybook Legends is like an absolute part of their life. Like they all need to sign it or they're gonna go poof. If they don't follow their destinies, they're gonna go poof. But like we know that's not true. Like Headmaster Grim is set up to be like kind of like an unreliable like person. Like we know it's not true because once Raven signs it, like nothing happens, they don't go poof. And like, I mean, we continue to follow the Ever After High girls throughout the series and they never go poof. Nothing bad like that ever happens to them as a result of not signing the Storybook of Legends. And also, additionally, it wouldn't have even mattered because at Legacy Day, none of the girls who even signed were even signing the correct Storybook of Legends, because in Throne Coming, we find out that one was like a fake one all along, so it didn't even matter. And Headmaster Grimm knew that it was fake, and he didn't seem overly concerned about it. Like, I mean, he was mad at the Evil Queen for stealing the Storybook of Legends, but honestly, I don't think he was mad because he thought it was going to make them all go poof. I think he was mad because he's like, oh shoot, if people know that the real one has been stolen and that this one was a fake and that like nobody's going poof, nothing's happening, he's gonna realize like, oh my gosh, they're gonna realize that the Storybook of Legends doesn't actually have that much power, and they're gonna realize that they can have more free will and do whatever they want. Like, basically, I think Headmaster Grimm was bluffing about Raven or somebody going poof if they didn't like sign and follow their destiny, because again, nobody in that generation was ever signing the Storybook of Legends. And additionally, like, Ever After High is not just like something that happens like every like 10 years or something. Like, Ever After High is just like a continuous high school. Like, there's so many fairy tales out there, like, and they're all having kids at different times. Like, Ever After High is always in session. So that means like in like, let's say like, I don't know, like the 20 or so years since the Evil Queen, it was probably more than 20 years, since the Evil Queen stole the Storybook of Legends to the modern day, like in that span of at least 20 years, so many people were signing the Storybook of Legends and graduating Ever After High, and none of them were signing the real one, and nobody has gone poof, and there have been no consequences. Like, yes, I think the power of the Storybook of Legends is fake. I think there is something to it, which I'll get into in a second. There is a little bit, but I don't think it actually has like that much power over like like the people's future. Like, honestly, like, I know I said this could go the other way at the beginning of the video, but honestly, I think one of the reasons, like, there was never any consequences for Little Red Riding Hood marrying the Big Bad Wolf is because it held no power over them. Like, I think it does hold some power in certain instances, but like I think it really just held no power over like the course of their lives, especially after their destinies. Like, because here's the thing, people do know that the big bad wolf didn't die. So Headmaster Grimm could say like, oh yeah, like the Storybook of Legends does allow a little bit of flexibility, like I was saying at the beginning. Like, there's certain steps you have to do, but if like one little minute thing is different, like that's fine. Like the big bad wolf not dying is fine. But Headmaster Grimm didn't know that they were married, or at least we don't know that he knew that Little Red and the big bad wolf were married. So basically, that's like one instance of them like doing something completely opposite of their destinies, and like everything was fine. However, it also goes the other way, because we do see that when Raven signed the Storybook of Legends, she unlocked the rest of her power. Like in Way to Wonderland and then in Dragon Games after that, we see that Raven Queen just like has way more power, because once she signed the Storybook of Legends, she unleashed the extra power. So clearly, it seems like for people who have like certain powers or abilities, the Storybook of Legends does kind of like lock those away. And I also do think there's a legitimate argument as to why Courtly wanted to steal the Storybook of Legends. I do think like if you have a certain role or title, like the Queen of Hearts, like perhaps it is some sort of contract, and stealing it and signing it could make you the next Queen of Hearts, because like that's a title. But like, let's say, I don't know, somebody like Maddie, she's not royal. Let's say somebody stole the Storybook of Legends and was like, I'm gonna be the next Mad Hatter. Would it really do anything? I don't know. Maybe it would make them a little crazy, but like, I don't know. So basically, I don't think the Storybook of Legends like has as much power as Headmaster Grimm says it has. I don't think it's that detrimental if people don't sign it. I also think it's kind of fabricated. And what I mean by that is, I think when the world of Ever After was originally created, I don't think there was a Storybook of Legends. I think before Headmaster Grimm arrived in Ever After High, he arrived in 1812 to the world of fairy tales, or Ever After, which was like 200 years before Ever After High takes place. So he arrived in 1812. I think before 1812, there was no Storybook of Legends, because in 1812, Headmaster Grimm, and you can like go look this up on the Ever After High wiki. So like in 1812, Headmaster Grimm founded Ever After High, and we can assume that's when he made the Storybook of Legends. Also, if you look at actual real life history, 1812 is like the year the Brothers Grimm wrote their fairy tale book. They wrote the, what's it called? Brothers Grimm Fairy Tales. They wrote that in 1812. And if you look at the real life history, how they did that is basically they went around Europe and collected different fairy tales and folk tales and put them into a book. So what do I think? I think that mirrors what happened in Ever After High. I think somehow in 1812, because it's, to me, I've always had theory, I think Headmaster Grimm is very likely somebody like from the real world. So he's like somebody from like the world of the readers. I know we're getting very like deep into the lore here, but bear with me. I don't know how he got into Ever After High, but let's just say in 1812 he got into Ever After High and traveled around Ever After, because at this point there was no Ever After High. It was just like Ever After, Bookend, whatever. He traveled around there to all the fairy tales and he gathered them up and he wrote them down in the Storybook of Legends. Do you see where I'm going with this? And I think when he did that, he said, hey guys, he kind of like, he wanted to take power. And he said, hey guys, you know what? I can make sure like that all you guys like are happy, specifically to like the royalty, like are happy for the rest of your days. I can make sure that like your like great grandchildren can continue to stick up to the status quo. I can make sure like everything in your reality is like perfect, and I can make sure like nothing ever like goes drastically wrong. Just like sign a part of your soul away into this Storybook of Legends. So basically, I think Headmaster Grimm, because we know he can do magic, I think somehow he created the Storybook of Legends, and I do think there is magic in it, but I think he created it. And I think what he did is he had like each of like the fairy tale characters at the time put a piece of their soul into the Storybook of Legends, and I think when they did this, they knew that they were gonna like have their children and their grandchildren continue to follow their same stories and live up to their legacy. Headmaster Grimm's reasoning for doing this is because I think before he went to Ever After in the real world, he wrote him and Giles. I should say Giles is also in this. It's just that Milton Grimm's worse. He's the villain. Giles Grimm was like, but I think Giles Grimm was in on this at the beginning. But I think what happened is somehow in the real world, Milton Grimm, Giles Grimm wrote the Brothers Grimm, and then they somehow got through a portal, or however. I've also said maybe they just like wrote like a version of themselves into the fairy tale world, like created like a self-insert character and wrote it into the fairy tale world. I know we're getting very complicated here. Somehow they got into the fairy tale world. They got into the book world, okay? Hey guys, I just also want to point out that I am aware that in the real world, like in our real world, the brothers Grimm's names are not Milton and Giles. They are like Jacob and Wilhelm, and there might actually even be a third one. So basically, either in the world of Ever After High, it's a parallel reality where Giles and Milton always had different names even when they were in the real world, or and probably more likely, Giles and Milton Grimm are the names that the brothers Grimm came up with for their self-insert characters when they decided to insert themselves into the fairy tale world. Hopefully that makes sense. And once they were in the book world, they were like, oh my gosh, yes, we want to make sure our version of the fairy tales are immortalized. Because before the Brothers Grimm, and this is like real life, before the Brothers Grimm wrote down their collection of fairy tales, like the fairy tales were always changing, like by different generations, like how people would retell them. The fairy tales were always changing. They were living until the Brothers Grimm wrote them down, and then once they were written down, the same story was like passed on, okay? So I think Milton Grimm and at first Giles Grimm motivation for doing this was, hey, if we can get all these fairy tale characters just like put a piece of their soul into this book, we can get them to continue following the same destiny, which will mean that in the real world, people will continue reading our version. They'll continue reading the Brothers Grimm version, so we will be rich. Or like if they're their self-insert characters, the real versions of themselves will be rich and be remembered and have fame and whatever. Which, again, does kind of line up with the real world because we've continued telling the Brothers Grimm versions over and over again. Anyway, how did the other characters who are not Brothers Grimm get looped into this? Because, like, Wonderland, that's not Brothers Grimm. There's other characters in there that are also, like, not Brothers Grimm. I think basically when they did this, it would be very obvious that they had nefarious intentions, like that they were just trying to do this for their own gain if they only asked the Brothers Grimm characters. I think they had to ask all the characters in the fairy tale world to put a piece of their soul into this book so that it didn't look suspicious. But that's why, if you notice in Ever After High, Milton Grimm cares so much about Raven following her destiny, and in my opinion, like, because of how much Milton Grimm favors Apple, I think Snow White's his favorite fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm, and I think he is so obsessed with Raven following her destiny because that's his fairy tale. It's a Brothers Grimm. Now, you will also notice that, I've talked about this before, that in Ever After High, Milton Grimm considered Duchess as a replacement if Raven didn't follow her destiny, which is kind of wild because then you're like, okay, then nobody's going to be there to like fulfill the Swan Princess destiny or Swan Lake or whatever it is. We're not going to talk about that right now. But it's because Milton Grimm, the Brothers Grimm does not include the Swan Princess. Milton Grimm could care less. That's not his purpose. He wants his stories to live on and have legacy. He does not care about the Swan Princess. Also, spoilers for the books, in the second Ever After High book, he tries to exile Maddie. And he basically tries to exile Maddie in order to punish Raven. He tries to exile Maddie because he can't like exile Raven to punish her because he needs her. Think about it. Maddie, again, like Duchess, is also not a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. He doesn't care. He's willing to sacrifice them. Milton Grimm never tried to heal Wonderland after it got sealed off. He just said, okay, seal off, we don't have to deal with that. He never tried to heal it. Like, he could have sent Bala Yaga in there to fix it. No. He said, no, we're not dealing with this. Because he doesn't care about Wonderland because it's not his fairy tale. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad about this. But anyway, basically, going back to the origins, 1812, he had them all sign away part of their souls. And I think this contract that the original version of like Snow White, the original version of the Evil Queen, all the originals, they made this soul contract, I think. And it would like continue to like promise to have like all their children basically also have a piece of their soul in the Storybook of Legends, if that makes sense. So like Apple has a piece of the soul, Raven has a piece of the soul. That is why in Way to Wonderland, when Raven signs the Storybook of Legends, that's why she gets her powers, because part of her soul was locked away. Now, how do we get around this? How do we get around everybody having a piece of their soul locked up in the Storybook of Legends? I think Raven already fixed this problem, because if you remember at the end of Way to Wonderland, Raven kind of like releases the book. I will put like a picture of here, or maybe like I'll put a little clip. Like basically at the end of Way to Wonderland, they're like, you know, we don't need the Storybook of Legends anymore. Let's give everybody's destiny back to themselves. And all the pages for each of the destinies fly back and like go into the characters and like poof into their chest. I think all those little pages of the destinies going back to the characters, I think that was the pieces of their soul that were trapped in the Storybook of Legends. But now they're free. So now Milton Grimm has no power over them. And again, I do still think the power that if the Storybook of Legend held any power of them, it was very minimal. I think the most it could do is like I said with Raven, like because a piece of her soul was stuck in the book, like it held part of her powers. I think, for example, for Lizzie, because a piece of her soul was stuck in the book, that was like the piece of her that was like able to be queen or something, and that's what Courtly was trying to get. I think it was very minimal, and for a lot of characters, like getting that piece of their soul back probably didn't really even matter because it was probably like a small, insignificant piece. Maybe if anything, it made Maddie's... We're gonna do another video about Maddie's powers, okay? But if anything, I think it made Maddie's crazy powers or whatever more strong. Like, just things like that little piece of their soul. But now they're, like, now in the Ever After High canon, they're all free from this because Raven does all the Storybook of Legends, they all have their souls back. But now let's talk about Ashlyn's mom, because if you remember at the beginning of the story, I said that part of how the Storybook of Legends, or like part of how Headmaster Grimm claims the Storybook of Legends is supposed to work is that it like destines them to do certain things, or like it locks them into a certain fate. So like Ashlyn's mom was destined to die at a young age so that Ashlyn could become the next Cinderella, whatever. Does that mean that Headmaster Grimm was gonna kill her? Like, obviously not literally kill her, but again, he can do magic. Ashlyn's mom was supposed to die of like some disease or like something like at an early age or something. So like, was Headmaster Grimm gonna like low-key poison her or something? If it had something to do with the soul being trapped, which I don't even know if that's true, because because I don't know how the soul thing 100% would work, because like I said, when Raven signed the Storybook of Legends, she got her powers back. So does that mean she released the part of her soul when she signed the Storybook of Legends, or was the part of her soul still trapped in the Storybook of Legends till they freed them at the end of the way to Wonderland? I don't know. But either way, like, if it has something to do with, like, the Storybook of Legends holding some sort of power of them, that's honestly still kind of Milton Grimm murdering Ashlyn's mom, because he created that book. Like, he created that book. He set up that system where all the Cinderellas have to die at, like, a young age. And I know there's probably other fairy tales where, like, there's stuff even worse than that happens. And, like, he set that system up. Like, bro, like, even if he's not literally putting poison in, like, Ashlyn's mom's tea, or, like, going to their house and cursing her in her sleep or something to die, like, he still set that system up with the book that has that power to do that for them. But I think now now that their souls are freed from the book or whatever, like, that's not going to happen anymore. But anyway, continuing on, I had another thing to say. Oh, yeah, Giles Grimm. I, like, briefly alluded to Giles Grimm being, like, an accomplice here. And what I have to say about Giles Grimm is I think at the beginning he was in on this. I think more so Milton Grimm was the one who was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's get them all to sign their souls away or whatever. I think Giles Grimm was just, like, there for the ride. I think Giles Grimm started to feel bad. And I've talked about this before, but if you have seen 13 Wishes from Monster High, Giles Grimm is in that movie. And when he's in that movie, he basically helps Gigi, which I believe Gigi Grant from Monster High is actually originally from Ever After High, because she's the daughter of the genie. Genies are actually more so fairy tale characters, like from Aladdin, you know, than like monsters. So I think she was originally from Ever After High, and basically in Gigi's backstory, you find out that Giles Grimm helped her by telling, this is so confusing, but he basically told the person who was wishing to Gigi, he tricked that person into wishing for Gigi to have a friend so that her shadow wisp became her friend, basically, so that Gigi wasn't lonely, because Giles Grimm felt bad that Gigi was stuck in this lamp and was all lonely. And I think Giles Grimm started doing stuff like that because he felt bad about the system that him and Milton Grimm set up, and I think he knew that people were suffering, and I think he didn't want to do it anymore, and he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this girl is stuck in this lamp by herself forever, like, I'm gonna go help her, I'm gonna go make her a friend. But then, of course, Wisp turned evil, as we all know, and then I think Milton Grimm found out and was like, Giles, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. And I think that, and probably also, like, a lot of other circumstances, are the reasons that Giles Grimm ended up being cursed to speak only Riddlish by Milton Grimm, and also got locked in the basement, which is where we see him first in Ever After High. And then also, of course, we know when Raven and Maddie go to see him in the basement, like, the first time in Ever After High, like, he can only speak Riddlish, but he's immediately trying to tell them that, like, they don't have to follow their destinies, that nothing bad is going to happen if they don't follow their destinies, because he knows that nothing bad is going to happen if they don't follow their destinies. He knows that it has a little bit of power because of the soul thing, but it doesn't have that much power. Like, they're not going to go poof. And he's trying to tell them this because I think he feels bad. I think he has come around. And I think that also explains why when Milton Grimm breaks out, like, he's so willing to forgive Milton. I think it's because he knows if he like goes up and is like, oh my gosh, Milton has a piece of your souls in this book, I think if he went up and exposed Milton to all the students at Ever After High, that would just also expose him. And that would cause like a complete societal breakdown because everything they know about the reality is now fake because both Milton Grimm and Giles Grimm were both lying to them. So I think that's part of the reason Giles Grimm doesn't like get angry with Milton once he finally breaks out. He just forgives him because here's the thing. Milton Grimm has also started to accept that, hey, like Raven didn't sign on Legacy Day and she didn't go poof. And like also everybody just like it just got exposed that the Storybook of Legends is like not like it has been stolen and like people know this. So like I think at that point like Milton Grimm kind of already knew like, oh my gosh, like I can't really keep this jig up for much longer. Like I still want Raven to follow her destiny because I love Snow White and I want that destiny to be fulfilled. But like I don't want to go too hard with this because people are gonna start to realize that like I'm a dictator or something. So I think that's why like Milton Grimm and Giles Grimm, like I'm sure they had a discussion off screen, but I think that's why they're so quick to basically like forgive each other is because they're like, hey, like Giles Grimm could expose Milton for everything bad Milton was done, but then that also exposes Giles Grimm for everything bad he did. And like also then Milton Grimm doesn't want to like say, oh my gosh, Giles, you're so annoying, like you told them they didn't have to follow their destinies because hey, like actually that's true, they don't have to follow their destinies because nobody went poof. So basically I basically think they don't try to fight each other or anything because they just know that would just end up worse for both of them. I hope that makes sense. But basically, I think that's why they don't try to come for each other. They're just like, yeah, like you were kind of right about some stuff, I was kind of right about some stuff. And so honestly, like I think we give a lot of like Giles Grimm a lot of credit for like standing up to Milton and like helping Raven. And I do think that's partially true, but I think it's not as true as we think it is because like bro could have gone up there and he could have exposed Milton Grimm for everything that they did, but he chose not to. So yeah. That is my opinion on how like the destinies work because you guys ask me this all the time. And I think what you guys don't realize is like Ever After High low-key has like a lot of political subtext, and just because Milton Grimm says the destinies work in a specific way, that does not mean they work in a specific way. They're very unclear, and they're very unclear like, okay, what even happened at the end of Wage? What did they like all of a sudden they said the Storybook of Legends was so important that all of a sudden they just dissolved it and everybody was completely fine. But then why are they still pressuring Apple to follow her destiny in Dragon Games? And I'll say the reason I think they are still pressuring Apple to follow her destiny in Dragon Games. Well, first of all, it was mainly Snow White. I do think it's because the royals, like the royal families, do very much care about legacy. And I think that's like actually how Milton Grimm was originally able to create the Storybook of Legends. I think when he arrived in the fairy tale realm, he immediately went to the royal families and he's like, hey, don't you want your descendants to continue to be rich and have happily ever afters, like convince everybody to put their soul into this book, and then like your grandchildren can continue to be rich. And that's another subtext on like how the royals benefit and stuff, because I think a lot of people don't realize this, like most of the rebels are either the commoners or the villains. There's some like villains who are royals, but again, most of the commoners are either like the rebels. Most of the commoners are the rebels, right? And that's because they don't benefit from the system. The reason like the royals, and the royals even have the royal name, and the royals are known for being like loyal to the Storybook of Legends, is because they are the ones who benefit from that system. So yeah, basically, Ever After High has very complicated politics, but that's how the Storybook of Legends works. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm glad I made this its own video because I briefly mentioned this in I think like episode 0 of the Ever After High retelling. But like I don't know how many people understood that, but yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. Again, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Just like go check, please go check. And if you want to like hit the bell, turn on notifications. And then again, with the Dollcrafter Marketplace, if you are at all interested in that, go sign up for the waitlist down below. I'll link it. But if you want to be a seller or if you want to be a customer, you can sign up for the waitlist. And again, it's just going to be a nice marketplace where we can all sell to other people in the doll community. And again, it's specifically going to be for like restyling and customizing materials. Like I already have an Etsy. I'll show some photos of stuff I sell. Like I sew handmade doll clothes. And again, right now I do have an Etsy because obviously the Dollcrafter Marketplace is not up and running yet, but I will switch over there once it starts running. But I have an Etsy. I sell handmade doll clothes, and I just feel like we need a better platform. Like, let's be honest. But I think those are all my shout outs. You can also go follow me on my other social medias, of course. And also down below, if you watch till the end, comment, what should you comment? Comment just like a red heart for Valentine's Day or something. Yeah, just comment a red heart. If you watch till the end, I'll know. I like to leave these little like these little like secret codes at the end so I know who actually watched till the end, because you guys are the real ones. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye guys.